Greetings Keyforgers, we are back round 2. Mass Mutation in the deck opening series. Fingers crossed for either a gigantic creature or a 7 sin deck, which is extremely unlikely. Never get these tabs off properly. There we go. Okay, it's another green Archon. That's all we've pulled for like the last 4 videos, I think. And it is this. It is Star Alliance and Saurions. Sir Half Amazing Ratcatcher. That is hilarious. Actually, no, I think that's Senior SR. I'll have to look that up. Green Archon. Bull's head on a boat. I'm not too sure. Let's take a closer look. There is a closer look at that Green Archon, and I did check, and it is Senior Half Amazing Ratcatcher. Bottom card coming out. Turning over, we're starting out with Star Alliance. We have a Sacro Alien, 5 power, 2 armor with a capture enhancement. Fight. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Put 1 into your hand and 1 on the bottom of your deck. Universal Translator is an upgrade. You get an amp when you play it. This creature gains Fight Reap. Use a friendly non-Star Alliance creature. Stealthster, 3 power with elusive. It may be played as an upgrade instead of a creature with the text, this creature gains elusive. Lieutenant Commander Trigon, 4 power. Reap, discard the top card of your deck. Resolve that card's bonus icons as if you had played it. Hayden Oswin, 2 power. It has a damage enhancement. Reap, gain 1 amber for each upgrade on Hayden Oswin. Subject Kirby, 2 power. Play Fight Reap. You may play a non-Star Alliance creature this turn. Security Droid, 4 power with Taunt. It may be played as an upgrade instead of a creature. With the text, this creature gains Taunt. Hadron Collision is an action. Play. Remove a ward from a creature and deal 3 damage to it. This damage cannot be prevented by armor. Explo Rover, 3 power Skirmish. May be played as an upgrade instead of a creature. With the text, this creature gains Skirmish. Did we just get every single one of those creature upgrades? I think we did. Commander Chan, 4 power. Fight Reap. Use another friendly creature. Blast Shielding is an upgrade. You get an ab when you play it and it's got a damage enhancement. This creature gets +2 armor. After this creature is used, its controller may attach Blast Shielding to one of this creature's neighbours. Access Denied is an upgrade. You get an ab when you play it. This creature cannot reap. On to Saurion, we're starting out with Senator Baracus, 4 power. You may spend amber on friendly creatures as if it were in your pool. Fight Reap, Exalt Senator Baracus. Crystal Surge is an action. You get an amp when you play it. Play. Exalt each mutant creature. Humble is an action. You get an amp when you play it. Play. Exhaust a creature. If you do, move 3 amber from that creature to the common supply. Gladiodontus, 15 power. Gladiodontus enters play stunned. It only deals 5 damage when fighting. Fight Reap. If this is the first time Gladiodontus has been used this turn, ready and enrage it. A second Gladiodontus. Sagittarius Gaze is an action. You get an amp when you play it and it put a damage enhancement in the deck. Play. Exalt a damaged creature. A second Sagittarius Gaze. And a third Sagittarius Gaze. Force the Great, 4 power. Your opponent's keys cost +1 amber for each friendly creature with amber on it. Play. You may exalt a friendly creature. A second Force the Great. And a third Force the Great. Cornerson Octavia, 5 power, 1 armor, action, capture 2 amber. Here we are into Dis. We're starting out with Gabos Long Arms. 5 power, before fight, choose a creature, Gabos Long Arms deals damage to that creature rather than the one it fights. Snudge, 4 power, fight Reap, return an artifact or flank creature to its owner's hand. Picaroon, it has X power and deploy. It's got a capture enhancement. X is the combined power of Picaroon's non-changeling neighbours. Pain Reaction is an action. You get an amp when you play it. Play. Deal 2 damage to an enemy creature. If this damage destroys that creature, deal 2 damage to each of that creature's neighbours. A second Pain Reaction. Waking Nightmare is an action. You get an amber when you play it. It put a capture enhancement in the deck. Play. Keys cost +1 amber for each disc creature in play during your opponent's next turn. A second Waking Nightmare. This one has been enhanced with a damage pip. Imp Spectre, 2 power. Destroyed, your opponent purges a random card from their hand. A second Imp Spectre. Dominator Bauble is an artifact. Action, use a friendly creature. Brabble, 2 power. Destroyed, your opponent loses 1 amber. If it is not your turn, your opponent loses 3 amber instead. Bonesaw, 5 power. If a friendly creature is destroyed this turn, Bonesaw enters play ready. And there you have it. No sins, no gigantic creatures, but let's take a closer look. If we get straight into this breakdown, it had 10 actions, a whopping 22 creatures, 1 artifact and 3 upgrades. Now 6 of those creatures were mutants. We had 10 printed amber in the deck, 2 capture enhancements and 3 damage enhancements. Whenever you're dealing with Saurion, sometimes it's a little bit hard to quantify amber control and expected amber because they have lots of ways sometimes of getting amber from your own creatures into your pool, but then again there's always that downside that your opponent will be able to get that amber back when they take out your creature. So exalting, sometimes you have to weigh up the benefits. So it was a little bit harder with this deck, but if we start with amber control, and I'll start with Star Alliance, we had access denied. One of the 3 upgrades, this creature cannot reap. Fantastic upgrade. If your opponent has a very nice reap ability, this just stops it dead. And there are very few cards that actually deal with upgrade removal. In Dis, we had Waking Nightmare, the action that increases your opponent's key cost for each disc creature in play during your opponent's next turn. Now, Forge a Key is done after start of turn events, so it's your creatures and their disc creatures, but it lasts for the whole turn. So even if they try and key cheat, this will still be in effect. We have Brabble, 2 power with the destroyed ability of your opponent loses 1, and then if it's destroyed on your opponent's turn, they lose 3. So if they take it out, it's a bigger detriment to them. And then Waking Nightmare, the second one we got, just there, which has the attached damage pip. In Saurions, we had the Cornerstone Octavia, 5 power, 1 armor, action, capture 2. Very strong body, 2 capture onto. And then probably one of the highlights of this deck was Force the Great. 4 power, and your opponent's keys cost +1 amber for each friendly creature with amber on it. So as long as it's got just 1, your opponent's key cost is going to increase by 1. We have 3 in the deck, so if you have them all out and 1 creature has amber on it, it's increased by 3. If you have just these 3 Force the Great out and you've exalted just them, your opponent's key cost is going to cost an additional 9. So it's going to shoot up to 15. So they're very nice to have on the board. It's almost a you shall not forge if you can put them all down at the same time, because you have that lovely playability of you may exalt a friendly creature, which can include itself. Now bear that in mind, any creature with amber on it can be part of our expected amber because we do have Senator Baracus. It's a rare dinosaur and you'll see why, because it has a passive ability of you may spend amber on friendly creatures as if it were in your pool. So where Senator Shrix just does it for themselves, Senator Baracus works on every single friendly creature you have. It has a fight ability, you probably won't want to fight with it, but it's also a reap ability of Exalt Senator Baracus, so you can exalt it on your turn if you reap it. It should just be noted that this will have a huge bullseye on it because your opponent will want to take it out, especially if you have a lot of creatures with amber on. How do we get the amber on those creatures? Well, Sagittari's Gaze. We have 3 of them in the deck. They put those 3 enhancements for damage in our deck, but when you play, you exalt a damaged creature, you can exalt your own creatures. If you're confident that your opponent can't take them out, and you have Senator Baracus on the board and you know it's going to survive, there's a lot of options there. If you know you can take your opponent's creatures out, exalt your opponent's creatures if they're damaged. Crystal Surge. When you play it, you exalt each mutant creature. Now, we only have 6 mutant creatures in the deck. If you're playing against a non-mass mutation deck, this card will either be very good if you have Senator Baracus out on the field, or it's going to be a discard. You may want to play it for the Amber Pip, but I'd be very wary if you're the only one with mutants in play. We had Bonesaw. If a friendly creature was destroyed this turn, Bonesaw enters play ready. That's nice for Disc, because Disc usually do have some removal. And also in Disc, we had Dominator Bauble. It's the only artifact in the deck, but it's a lovely house cheat of user-friendly creature. So you can activate Saurions or Star Alliance on a Disc turn and reap with them as soon as we put it in Expected Amber. Speaking of house cheating, we have Commander Chan, 4 power. Lovely fight reap ability of using another friendly creature. Exactly the same as the Dominator Bauble, but it is an out of turn house cheat. And while we're on the subject of house cheating, I'm just going to put down Hayden Oswin, 2 power with that damage enhancement, had the reap ability of gain 1 for each upgrade on Hayden Oswin. Now we have 3 primary upgrade cards, one of which is the Universal Translator. When you fight or reap, you can use a friendly non-Star Alliance creature. If you do it with Hayden Oswin, not only will you be gaining an additional amber from reaping with an upgrade, but you'll be able to house cheat a non-Star Alliance creature as well, and most likely reap with them. Now it's only 3 upgrades in the deck, but we do have the Stealth Stunt, the Securijoid, and the Explo Rover. If you put them all on Hayden Oswin, they would have Elusive, Skirmish, and Taunt, which isn't that bad, and it would be an additional 3 amber generated when they reap. Artifact control, we do have some in the deck. It's creature based and it is Snudge. 4 power, fight reap, return an artifact or flank creature to its owner's hand. So it does have some versatility, which I like. Bouncing an artifact to your opponent's hand, especially if it's got an action, means that they have to play it, wait for it to ready before they can use it again. If it's something like Redacted and they've got 2 or 3 markers on it, bouncing that back and they have to play it again, it will reset that. I do like it. I also like it because sometimes you can manipulate your opponent's battle line, especially with Disc, where you can destroy creatures. You can put that creature that might have 3 or 4 amber on it and bounce it back to their hand so you get that amber. I do like Snudge, and it also adds into a little bit of disruption, so I really like Snudge. Creature control, there were no actual board wipes in the deck. We had the Humble. Exhaust a creature. If you do, move 3 amber from that creature to the common supply. So the creature must be ready before you do this. Would you do it on your opponent's creature? Yes, if their ability has something involving amber and I knew I wasn't going to be able to take it out, like Ducillus, which has the lovely ability of fight or reap and you deal 2 damage to your entire opponent's battle line. You might want to do that. We might have a creature that maybe has accumulated a lot of amber. Our Senator Baracus is dead. We're like, our opponent's going to be able to take that out. Humbling our own creatures will prevent our opponent from getting it. We had the Hadron Collision in Star Alliance. Very good card because the first line is remove a ward from a creature and deal 3 damage to it. So you're popping that ward and then dealing 3 damage, and this damage cannot be prevented by armor. So if it's a 3-powered armored creature with a ward, you're just going to take it out. We had the 2 pain reactions in Dis. 2 damage to an enemy creature, and then if this damage destroys that creature, you deal 2 damage to each of that creature's neighbours. So it's a splash if the creature dies. And then we had Gabos Long Arms. 5 power, and it has a before fight ability. Choose a creature. Gabos Long Arms deals damage to that creature rather than the one it is fighting. Very nice for getting around taunts and elusives. When it comes to efficiency, we didn't do too bad considering it's not logos. We had Subject Kirby. 2 power, play fight reap, you may play a non-Star Alliance creature this turn. Great first turn card because it allows you to get 2 creatures down first turn. And it's also a house cheat because you can play a creature out of house. Then we had Sacro Alien. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck and then you put 1 into your hand and 1 on the bottom of your deck. That other one goes back onto the top of your deck so you know what's coming next, which would work really well with another creature we have, which is Lieutenant Commander Trigon. Has a reap ability of discard the top card of your deck, and then you resolve the card's bonus icons as if you had played it. So there is a possibility with these two to stack your deck to pull off maybe that damage pip, capture pip, or an amber pip. There wasn't any recursion, so there's no way of us getting cards from our discard pile into our archives, into our hand, or in play. But what we did have was some disruption. I already talked about the Snudge, but then we had the 2 Inspectors, 2 power, destroyed. Your opponent purges a random card from their hand. Purge is great, especially if your opponent is holding on to something as part of a combo, maybe Martian Generosity, Key Abduction, Library Access, Data Forge. It's just annoying, and I love it. There are a couple of cards that weren't noted down in any of those areas. We had the Picaroon. Has deploy, so you can put it anywhere on your battle line, and it did inherit one of those captured amber enhancements. And power is X, but X is a combined power of Picaroon's non-changeling neighbours. I think it's the only changeling. Don't quote me on that though. I haven't looked it up. So just for example, I've got 2 creatures here that I'm going to put down. Gladiodontus and Gladiodontus. It enters play stunned. It only deals 5 damage when it fights, but it's a big 15 power creature. And it has the fight reap ability of, if this is the first time Gladiodontus has been used this turn, you ready and enrage it. So you can reap, and then it readies, and then you have to fight because it's enraged unless your opponent doesn't have any creatures on the board. You could also fight twice. But if I had that set up there, Picaroon would be a 30 powered creature, which would be a bit insane. And then the last card was actually Blast Shielding, which was the final upgrade. Got one of those damage enhancements as well. This creature gets +2 armor, and after you've used the creature, you may bounce Blast Shielding to one of the creature's neighbours. Decks of Keyforge was not nice to this deck. They gave it a 55 SAS rating. That's not good. They said it's a wretched, dull, wretched deck among the worst 25% of decks according to SAS. I think it does lack in, scaling amber control, board wipes. You will be controlling the board with your large creatures and with that Snudge. I do believe that your amber control, if you can get that board line set up with those Force the Greats, your opponent is not going to forge, possibly ever, if you play this deck for 6. It's gonna be more if they forge at all. I think your expected amber is okay. If you can get a couple of upgrades on Hayden Oswin and protect them, then I do feel that it could ramp up pretty quickly. I don't think it's as bad as decks of Keyforge made it out. I'll take it for a test drive. Who knows? It might be amazing. All that's left me to say is good luck, have fun, keep forging.